and welcome to the Joe Ligato Show. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Ligato, and today we're going to be talking about the meeting that happened a few months ago between Xi Jinping and Joe Biden. And I believe this is going to be of interest for a variety of different reasons, but this poster says that he believes a hidden ceasefire was agreed upon. So let's see what he thinks and provide our commentary on it. So Xi and Biden met to temporarily end the U.S.-China standoff. So just off the top of my head, I think America wants that in the short term just because of the fact that they are so busy with the Israel crisis and also so busy with the Russia crisis that it really cannot handle a third front right now. I don't know if it necessarily benefits China because spreading the United States thin will destabilize the United States so it can't focus on China entirely. If the United States has a chance to put out the fires in the Middle East and in Eastern Europe, then it can focus all of its attention on China. So let's see what this poster has to say. The United States is out of cash and can't afford 4 wars: Russia, Iran, DPRK, and China. So another good comment here is DPRK would definitely get involved if, say, a China or a Russia were directly in conflict with the United States. It goes on to say China is in a painful transition and facing a financial war. I don't know if I agree with that. They are bursting some bubbles, or I should say slowly letting the air out of some bubbles, such as its real estate sector, which was becoming more financialized and more based on speculation instead of actually selling people homes. And so I don't know if I agree with their notion of it being necessarily a painful transition. It's uncomfortable, but it is entirely intentional that they are making sure that their economy is not as destabilized and as bloated as the United States economy. So he says this thread will reveal what's hidden that will change the world in 2024. So he says there's a hidden ceasefire deal made. Let's see what evidence they have of that. The United States needs Beijing to slow down de-dollarization. The United States debt is not selling. Europe will ban fossil fuel cars by 2035. China will run on 50% renewables by 2030. The petrodollar is ending. That's why the United States wants Gaza. Let's see what this person has to say. Okay, so why would China agree to this? Why would they slow down their de-dollarization in order to help the United States? United States debt is not selling. That's obviously the case because the United States is in terminal decline, and I think every country and nation and government and big organization, everyone recognizes that at this point, except for the willfully blind people in America for the most part. It's talking about Europe banning fossil fuel cars by 2035. So China's in a great position to take over the market for electric vehicles because they're going to be 50% renewable vehicles in their own country by 2030. So yeah, the petrodollar is ending. China's focusing on renewable energy, which is the future. And it says that's why the United States wants Gaza. So they want to focus on Gaza. I don't know how that's going to work. I mean, are the other conflicts just going to pause so that the United States can take these conflicts one at a time? I don't think that's how anything works. It goes on to say Israel is ramping up natural gas production outside of Gaza. They have 23 trillion CF of gas reserves, enough for decades of use in Europe. But Hamas is in the way. Netanyahu's genocide in Gaza aims to secure wealth for future Israeli generations, and the U.S. gets a cut. I don't know if this is that good of an idea. Maybe it's the case. Okay, I personally think if I was in the United States position, I would have sided with the Sunni Muslims and driven a wedge between Sunni Muslims and Shia Muslims. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm on the side of multipolarity. I'm just talking about this as a hypothetical if I was an advisor. But I would drive a wedge between them. By taking Israel's side, they are uniting Sunni Muslims and Shia Muslims against Israel and against the United States. And so in terms of multipolarity, they lost a huge force in exchange for not much. And maybe they're hoping for this natural gas reserves. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal compared to losing, say, a Saudi Arabia. Or maybe they feel like, given their own intelligence, maybe they feel like they already lost Sunni Muslims because Saudi Arabia is interested in joining BRICS. And I don't know if they've ever officially accepted at this point, but they were definitely like invited to join and they were interested in joining, but like they've been waffling. So at the time of this recording, they may still not have joined, but it's the case that Saudi Arabia is definitely hesitant to be all in on America. So maybe this is the United States gambit against that, to have other sources of natural energy, but still doesn't make sense to me because they're burning bridges with the entire Muslim world at this point. So let's move on. The deal is that the United States will protect Israel and get a cut on the gas sales, but Hamas attacks shows the United States enemy what's possible. North Korea has 800,000 troops hungry and ready. If war starts in the Middle East, Kim Jong-un will advance in 30,000 United States troops in South Korea, no match. United States troops are not matched for very many people. They can't even fight goat herders in Afghanistan, so they will definitely not be able to take on the North Korean troops. Russia has 44 trillion CF of gas, Iran 26 trillion. They won't sit still for Israel to take over the European market. The US cannot deal with Russia, Iran, DPRK, and China at the same time. So what does China think of this situation? Let's say the US fears that Beijing will supply Iran with weapons and shift the power balance in the region. That is obviously going to be the case. I mean, China wants the United States overextended. They want the United States to be spread very thin across multiple different theaters of war. And so, yeah, why would China go for a peace deal at this point? And China will play a pivotal role in peace talks in 2024. 2024, this year, is a huge deal with the United States elections and with Russia in charge of, I believe it's BRICS, because they have like a rotating leadership there. I think this is going to be a really important year, especially because the Ukrainian war, Ukrainian special military operation looks like it's about to collapse. So as a counter move, the United States blocks investment funds from flowing into China. Also, China has another major problem he talks about here. China's total factor productivity is too low. Simply put, China needs to pay $100 to make a $10 profit instead of $30, $30 to $40 like the developed countries. Okay. If this continues, China's middle class will never get rich. Xi Jinping is changing it and making the United States furious. Okay, so interesting there. So they need to spend more money in order to make less money, essentially, because other countries can, I mean, it makes sense because China is still a developing country or a middle income country. And so to say that they need to do more in order to make less money, it does make sense compared to the more industrialized nations. But that is quickly changing. And obviously Xi Jinping has a plan for that, which is Westerners cannot understand that. They can't fathom it, that a leader has a plan to develop the nation, because the United States and the Western world has been run by complete buffoons for decades now. They don't know what good leadership looks like. But anyways, let's see what is going on here. China's economy 1.0 was built on real estate, e-commerce, and industrial capacity. Oh, okay. So he's going to talk about the real estate bubble and how Xi Jinping is slowly letting air out of that bubble. So it goes on to say it's labor and capital intensive. Okay, so China is moving up in terms of the value chain. They're trying to make themselves more profitable for less work, like they were talking about earlier. It makes the United States and a few Chinese rich, like Jack Ma, but China's middle class is overworked and underpaid. The Communist Party of China knows it's not sustainable. And it goes on to say, in 2016, Xi set the groundwork for transitioning China into the new economy. China's economy 2.0 will create new industries powered by technological innovation. Okay, so maybe this is part of what worried the United States under Donald Trump, and why Donald Trump really escalated the trade war to like an actual trade war during his presidency, was because of the fact that China wasn't just a subservient country that was willing to be underpaid and overworked. They wanted to move up the value chain so that they could make their citizens more well off. So it goes on to say this directly challenges the United States and uber wealthy Chinese profit margin. Xi became their enemy. So he was trying to help the middle class at the expense of the oligarchs. China's new growth drivers, technology-enabled industrial capacity and supply chain. Okay. What is this graph trying to say here? R&D, design, manufacturing, assembly. I don't know what it's trying to say with this graph. Chain diversification. Is it trying to say where? Yeah, this is a weirdly drawn graph. It shows China. Oh, wait. Yeah, it's showing China twice. And it's not really saying what any of this stuff means. Just showing the production stages. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what this is trying to say here. Anyways. So China's new economy is written in the 14th five-year plan announced in 2021. So this is where not only Chinese citizens, but also people of the world can understand the direction China is going in. They have five-year plans. The United States has nothing like a five-year plan. China says, this is the direction we're going in. This is how we're going to do it. And then at the end, they assess whether they accomplished their goals and how successful they were, what were successful elements, what were unsuccessful elements, things like that. The United States has nothing similar. And I think it's a really good idea for a country to have a direction. So it's not just aimless. I mean, I think a lot of people would say that America, aside from the directions that the oligarchs point America in, America is a very aimless country. It doesn't really have goals aside from whatever the oligarchs tell America that its goals should be. So it goes on to say, it's extremely painful to redirect capital away from the old pillars to the new ones. That leads to many losers, and the winners are not here yet. So China's focusing on the long term, and they're willing to take a little bit of short-term pain for a lot of long-term gain. So China needs time, and the United States needs cash. Okay. It goes on to say, this U.S.-China ceasefire will be short. Expect major changes to be announced at China's third plenary session in 2024. Based on Eric Z's economic trajectory, China's middle class will double and its economy will triple by 2034. That's excellent. I mean, I wish America had a country that cared about the middle class like that. It goes on to say, BRI countries will also benefit greatly. So I talked about this well over a decade ago. I was saying, listen, China, what you need to do is, if the United States manages to block you off from the South China Sea, now I'm not saying give up on the South China Sea, but if they manage to block you off, at least even just temporarily, you need to have an alternative. You need to have a land-based alternative, and you need to revive the Silk Road. And so that's what they did. The Belt and Road Initiative was the revived Silk Road, and it is China's backup plan so that the United States cannot just cut off China in the South China Sea for trade. So instead of trade going through the ocean, naval trade by the seas, they have a land-based alternative to trade with a lot of their trading partners via Central Asia, South Asia, things like that, and even via Russia at this point, because they've created things like natural gas pipelines and stuff like that. So this was a backup plan to make sure that all their eggs were not in one basket of just fighting against the United States in the South China Sea. And I think it was a great idea. I suggested it before the Belt and Road Initiative was actually a thing, and it looks like, I don't know if anyone actually heard me or if someone else had the exact same idea, but it worked out very successfully. It goes on to say, Biden's cringy friendliness is a show. The target audience is Chinese. The U.S. lost 70% of Chinese tourists from $35 billion in 2019 down to $10 billion. Biden wants Chinese cash. The game is fixed. Nothing is what it seems except one thing. I don't know about this really. I mean, I think at this point, the United States understands that Chinese people don't want to go to the United States because the United States is a very hostile nation. It's a very crime-ridden nation. No one wants to live there at this point. I mean, that's why people, like, the amount of people asking for a passport at this point so they can flee the United States is astronomical. I left the United States back in 2023, and I couldn't be happier leaving the United States. And so I don't think Chinese tourists are going to come back to the United States just because the United States begs, because it's a dangerous place. It's not a happy place. It's a nation very clearly in terminal decline. And you can just go to many parts of the country to see that. Moving on, it says, Western rulers will never tell us their real plan. Beijing is the opposite. Everything is clear, written in their 5-year plan. And I absolutely love this. I love when it's spelled out for you, like what we think, what are the kind of objectives of our nation, how we think you should act within the nation, et cetera, et cetera. The United States has a ton of unwritten rules, a ton of taboos, and it just has, it has a direction, but the direction is completely hidden. And it's only a direction known by the oligarchs in charge of America. So I just don't like how America operates. I truly don't. It goes on to say, and China always follows through on its plan and meets at least 80% of its goals. I think that's really good. If you're meeting 100% of your goals, then you don't have goals that are challenging enough. I think 80%, 70%, 80% is a really good range to be in, because that means that you're pushing yourself to your limits and beyond. If you set really weak goals, sure, you can reach those goals, but you're not challenging yourself, growing yourself. And so it seems like China recognizes how to create smart goals that are actually beneficial to the nation. So it goes on to say, correction, China has already met its 50% renewable energy goal back in June 2023. Okay, so he was saying earlier by 2030 they would have their 50% renewable vehicles, but now they're already at it in 2023. Man, China's speed is so hard to keep up with. Yeah, so that correction is hilarious there, because it just shows you that China is beating all metrics. Like, if they say they're going to do it by 2030, they're going to do it far earlier. And that's something that we learn in psychology, which is you're always supposed to under-promise and over-deliver, and China just does that exceedingly well. And so, yeah, I think the United States is pretty doomed at this point, and sure, they can beg China for more Chinese tourism. They can beg for a ceasefire, but China recognizes that the United States will not allow China to succeed. And so China is going to be full throttle, putting as much pressure on the United States as possible so the United States cannot focus all of its efforts on harassing China and creating an independent Taiwan. Thank you so much for investing your time in watching this video. If you found the content informative, be sure to show your support by giving us an upvote. Your engagement goes a long way in boosting our visibility within the algorithm. To stay ahead on the most pressing contemporary issues, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We're committed to delivering up-to-date, thought-provoking content on a daily basis, and we want you to be a part of this journey. Also, your thoughts matter to us, so please share any comments, questions, concerns, and/or critiques in the comment section below. I personally read each one and I respond when necessary. Given the nature of our content, where we expose the actions of the oligarchs who exploit the masses, intentional suppression in the algorithm is an unfortunate reality. If you believe in our mission, you can help by spreading the word. Tell your friends about our content. Let's amplify the voices of those that challenge the status quo. Speaking of amplifying voices, I need your help. As many of you know, I gave up a lucrative career in the fastest growing field and the highest paying subfield of psychology in the United States to move to the Philippines to provide content that I think is important for my viewers to hear. I left so I could avoid repercussions for speaking about topics that are taboo in the United States. This decision came with significant financial sacrifices, but your support can help sustain the work we do. Check out the links in the description for how to support our channel. Every contribution, big or small, is genuinely appreciated. Finally, as a channel, we stand with the people of Palestine. We believe in their freedom, and by supporting us, you can contribute to this shared vision. Thank you for being a part of our community. Your viewership is invaluable, and I genuinely hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye.